Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Martello. We are going to look at section 1.2. If you want to follow along in the textbook with me, you can always look up on the online textbook here. I'm on page 12. So we're going to take a look by starting at example 2 here. We're solving multi-step equations. We already did one-step and two-step equations. Now let's look at multi-step equations. I've already written this equation down on my piece of paper. I encourage you to take notes along with me. So if you'd like to write down this equation, you can pause the video at any time. If you want to go ahead, that's fine with me as well. So first step we want to look for are like terms. We want to combine our like terms and simplify the equation as much as we can first. So I notice here that 9x and negative 6x are like terms. Let's combine those like terms to get negative 12 equals 3x plus 15. Now that I'm done simplifying my equation, I'm going to start to isolate the variable. When I isolate the variable, I'm really following the order of operations backwards. So the first thing I want to get rid of is the number being added or subtracted. So because this is plus 15, let's do the inverse and we're going to subtract 15 from both sides to cancel this out. When I do this, I get negative 27 equals 3x. Okay, I'm still gonna work to isolate my variable x here. Let's get rid of 3 because it's being multiplied with the variable. So because it's multiplied, the inverse operation would be to divide. So I'm gonna divide by 3 on both sides, and I get negative 9 equals x. That would be my answer. Now remember, you can always check your answer by taking this number and plugging it back into the original equation. You can plug it in by hand, in your head, or you can even use your calculator, that's fine. Let's plug it in just so we can show our check to make sure that it actually does work. I'm gonna plug negative 9 into the original equation for both of these x's. So negative 12 equals 9 times negative 9 minus 6 times negative 9 plus 15. Let's simplify. Negative 12 equals negative 81. This would become a positive 54 and then plus 15. And if I combine all these numbers here together, I do get negative 12 equals negative 12. So I know that this works. Let's take a look at example 3 next. Example 3 is the same idea here. We're still going to simplify the equation, but this time now we are looking at equations with parentheses. So let me take a second and write down example 3. You should write it down as well if you are copying notes with me. So 2 times the quantity of 1 minus x plus 3 equals negative 8. Let's solve this equation. So our first step is we want to simplify the equation. What I would suggest doing is to distribute the 2. Let's multiply the 2 into the parentheses. Now there are other ways to solve this equation, but I think this is the best way to go for this one. So when I distribute, remember you're multiplying the number in front by every term inside of the parentheses, only inside. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times negative x would be minus 2x. Plus 3 stays the same, equals negative 8. We're going to do the same thing that we did in example 2 from here. Let's combine our like terms. I see 2 and 3 are like terms. Let's combine them. We're going to keep negative 2x plus 2 and 3 make 5 equals negative 8. Let's solve for x. So we're going to, again, isolate the variable. We're going to get rid of the number being added or subtracted. We're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Negative 2x equals negative 13. Finally, we'll divide both sides by negative 2. And to get my answer, I can leave it as a fraction. I want to simplify my fractions as much as possible. A negative and a negative make a positive 13 over 2. And you can leave your answer just like this as an improper fraction. I personally like improper fractions over mixed numbers. Or if you want to, you can change it to a decimal. That's fine as well. Make it 6.5. That would be totally acceptable as well. So if you want to say x equals 6.5, that would be okay too. Now there are other examples here. If you would like to try the monitoring progress questions at the bottom underneath the examples, you are absolutely welcome to do that. We're going to next take a look at some real world problems of how to write equations. And we're going to do that by looking in the 1.2 exercises over here. So if you want to follow along with me, again, I'm in the textbook. I'm on page 16 here. And we're going to look at these problems here, 29 to 34. We're going to focus on the odds so that you can do the evens in your practice. So basically, we want to write and solve an equation to find the number. We want to use the keywords here to write an equation, and then we're going to turn that equation, the sentence, into the equation and solve it. So let's see what we have going on here. Number 29. In number 29, we have the sum of twice a number and 13 is 75. Maybe what we should do here first is talk about some of the key words and make sure we know what those words are actually telling us. So I'm going to put the book aside for right now, and let's write here some key words of how to write equations. Key words. So one of the words we see in here is the word sum. We know that sum means addition. Let's think of some other words that also go along with this word. So if sum is addition, we know that difference is subtraction. We know that product is multiplication. And we know that quotient is division. Another word that we see here in this problem is twice. Twice means 2 times a number. Another key word we see here in this problem is the word is. Oh, I forgot the E twice. The other word is is. Is implies that we want equals. So we're going to use an equal sign anytime we see the word is. Now there are plenty of other words that we might see as they come up, and we'll talk about them as we see them, but we should recognize at least these to start. Okay, so let's go back to number 29. Okay, number 29, I'm going to read the question again here. It says, the sum of twice the number and 13 is 75. Let's write an equation. So the sum means I'm adding 2 things together. Twice a number. I don't know what this number is, so I'm going to use a variable for it. I can use any variable that I want. I can use 2n or I can use 2x, whatever variable you prefer. Sum means I'm adding with the 13. Is implies equals, and then 75. Now that I wrote my equation, the directions also say to solve the equation. So let's quickly solve the equation here. We're going to subtract 13 from both sides. I get 2n equals 62. And then let's divide both sides by 2, and I get n equals 31. Let's do one more together here. We're going to take a look at number 31. In 31 it says 8 plus the quotient of a number and 3 is -2. So here we go, 8 plus the quotient means I'm dividing a number and 3. So let's have n over 3 like this. Notice how I'm writing it in this algebraic equation. Instead of using that division sign, I don't want to use that symbol anymore. This symbol is very elementary for us. We're going to not use that symbol anymore. We're going to focus on writing any division as a fraction. Then we have is -2. Okay, let's solve this equation that we just wrote. We're going to subtract 8 from both sides. N over 3 equals -10. Our next step is to solve for n. Since n is being divided by 3, let's go ahead and multiply both sides by 3, get that to cancel out. So for this equation, I get n equals negative 30. All right, so this is the idea that we are using. Number 33 is a little bit different, so let's be careful when we look at number 33 here. Number 33 says 6 times the sum of a number and 15 is negative 42. So this is a little bit different when it says 6 times the sum of, or if it said 6 times the difference of. That means that whatever comes after the sum of is going to be a quantity. So I'm just going to write myself a note here. If it's something times the sum of, times the sum or difference of, that means I want to put it in a quantity, which means I'm going to use parentheses around it. All right, so let's write an equation. For 33, 6 times the sum of, so I'm going to put parentheses here and put the sum in the parentheses. The sum of a number and 15, n plus 15, is, so equals negative 42. Okay, let's solve this equation for n. I'm going to distribute my 6 first. I get 6n plus, let's multiply here. So 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 10 is 60. Let's add them together. 30 and 60 makes 90, equals negative 42. Let's solve. We're going to minus 90 from both sides. 6n equals negative 132, and then we'll divide both sides by 6 to get n equals negative. Let's divide here. 6 goes into negative 13. That would be 2 times with 1 left over, making this 12, and that makes that 2 times, so negative 22. Okay, we're going to look at one more type of problem, and this is a real world situation here. We're looking at number 35. Okay, in number 35, let's focus here. We're going to write and solve the equation. It says, during the summer, you work 30 hours per week at a gas station and earn $8.75 per hour. You also work as a landscaper and work $11 and earn $11 per hour and can work as many hours as you want. You want to earn a total of $400 per week. How many hours must you work as a landscaper? So let's think about how we can come up with our equation. Let's maybe write some notes here when we write our equation. When you write your own equation, you always want to think about putting the total on the right side. So notice how in this problem it told us what we want our total amount to be. So on the left side, we want the current situation with the variable. That goes on the left side of the equation. And we want that to be equal to the total amount on the right side of the equation. So keep this in mind when you're thinking about writing your equation. Whatever is going on, you're adding it up or subtracting or multiplying, whatever's happening with that unknown value, then it set it equal to the total on the right side. Okay, let's go back to 35. Let's write our equation. Well, first we're gonna work at the gas station. It's $8.75 per hour, so $8.75 per hour times the number of hours we are working that week. So since we're working 30 hours per week for that job, we'll do $8.75 times 30. I also work, so I'm gonna add my landscaping job. My landscaping job, I earn $11 per hour times the number of hours, but I don't know how many hours I need to work as a landscaper, so maybe I'll use the variable h for the hours that I need to work as a landscaper. Now I'm gonna set this equal to the total amount of money I need to earn that week, which is $400. Okay, let's simplify. We are going to multiply here. Simplify our equation first. Let's multiply 875 times 30, and that gives us 262.5 plus 11h equals 400. let's solve for h. So we're going to subtract 262.5 from both sides. Be careful when you're subtracting here. If you need to use a calculator, you absolutely can. We're going to subtract 400 minus 262.5. I get 137.5. And then let's divide both sides by 11. And here I get h equals 12.5. Now I could leave it like this as 12.5, and this would be 12.5 hours. Depending on the job, I don't know if I can work a half an hour. A lot of jobs you can, some jobs you can't. It doesn't say that I have to round it, so I'm going to keep my answer just like this, 12.5 hours.